Good afternoon. My name is Dale Rodriguez, and this is a Flabonga Monthrothacube. And with me today, I've got Andy slash Billy. What up, Andy? How's it going?
Well, yourself?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to watch this because it's the beginning of the Christmas period, which either means they're super busy doing work and skipping lunch, or they're all on annual leave. So, there'll be like two people watching this at best.
Well, that's the reason I agreed to do it for you.
What, to do it in Christmas time because no one will be watching?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it, man. I do appreciate it. I am going to get stuck in with the obvious questions. Please, can you tell us who you are, where you're based, and what you're doing for a living?
Yeah. Well, as the thing you can see at the bottom there, name's Andy, but I get Billy because of my surname. So I've put Andy and Billy on there. I live in the northeast of England, born and bred, and I wear a couple of hats. I'm a coach, mainly around mental fitness and mindset. I have a digital media company where I look after social media and do some branding. That's for the automotive industry, which is where I've spent the last 15 years of my life. And I also do a bit of sales within that industry as well. And I also have a little side hustle of a clothing brand, Harbinger of Hope, which is a bit of a passion project, which has recently just launched, which the idea is to try and get some positive messages out through fashion, really.
Are you currently wearing Harbinger of Hope gear?
I'm not, no, it's in the wash.
Fair enough, is worth asking.
It was a great plan to have one on today, but unfortunately, no, I slathered all over it and put jam on it this morning, so that was probably more my fault for putting it on before he'd gone to his bum wash.
No, that makes sense. I've been there as well. Like getting my small human ready for school, and then putting them in the full school clothes, and then they have breakfast, and it's like all over the school clothes. You're like,
yeah,
that was on me. I get that. So why start the clothing brand? That's interesting.
The clothing brand. Well, I've probably been doing that I had that idea maybe about 3 years ago, and I had the website probably about 2.5 years ago. And it's one of those things where you just procrastinate and should you do it, should you not? And the idea kind of behind it was that it was kind of how do you get. I'm very passionate about trying to get the right messages out to people.
Okay.
And there is some clothing brands out there at the moment that spread, and they tend to spread like one message. And I thought it would be quite good to have one that spreads a range of messages based around the kind of mental fitness, kind of mental health and self-development kind of area. And that's kind of where it grew from, really. And I eventually plucked up the courage to press the button on it, I think in November. So yeah, and it's just something that I play at the minute. But I've got a few things that are happening for 2025. I've got a couple of brand ambassadors that might be coming on to hopefully give it a bit more of a push. Yeah,
so
just an interest.
If I understood what you said correctly, your right message is kind of promoting positive mental health and good well-being. How specifically do your garments or articles of clothing do this?
The kind of messages that will be on them. So there's one that's called like Storms Pass. The idea of that one is on the back of it. It's kind of like a silhouette dancing in the rain, like a colourful rain. And that kind of idea is that storms, we all experience storms in our lives, but eventually those storms do pass. And once you've got that kind of understanding, it then becomes a bit easier to start actually enjoying times in them storms, which might sound a bit strange, but obviously when you're going through some crap in your life, you also can still have some fun in your life when you know that kind of thing is eventually going to pass. So there's that one, and the idea is if you're stood in the queue in Tesco and you've got that on your back, that there may be a chance that one person looks at it and it changes the perception in that moment, and that's the kind of idea of it. It's like, how do you spread these messages in communities in different ways? And that was kind of clothing just popped up to be like, well, that could be quite a good way to do it. Yeah, there's like a change perspective one, which is one side of the glasses is like war and famine, and then the other side is obviously nature and all this, and it's trying to give people the idea of an understanding that life is hard, but life is also good. It just depends on what you wake up in the morning and decide to focus on. So those are the kind of messages that we're trying to put through the clothing. Yeah.
So do you design all like the graphics yourself as well then? They're kind of like your artistic creations?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not very. I started obviously 3 years ago. I started this, and I wasn't very artistic. I used to go to I used to outsource it and say to somebody, "This is my idea. Can you put it into something?" But now I'm like 4 years down the line, because including some other things, 4 years down the line of being able to do a bit of graphic design and things. It's now more my ideas, and I try and build them myself. Because there's a cost saving on that side as well, because it costs obviously a bit of money to get somebody to do one, and then you've got to sell a certain amount of apparel to get that back, and it's quite hard in the whole dropship model that I have to actually make anything profitable. So the more I can design myself, the better. And yeah, so it's it was originally just me with an idea asking someone else to do it. Now it's kind of me with an idea, or my partner with an idea, and we try and do it ourselves, really.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So with regards to coaching, I'm going to ask a question I think a lot of people would like to ask. What is coaching? Why do you do it? And what specifically is mental fitness coaching?
Well, for me, mental fitness coaching is more, it's trying to build that mental resilience. And that comes for me from a personal experience in life. So over 4 years ago, I went through a bit of a rocky patch. Before that, I'd had quite a privileged upbringing. My parents were hardworking. I grew up in a nice house. I had a lot of privilege, like going to university, things like that. Never really experienced any problems or real trauma in my life, like lost a grandparent, things like that, which were hard. But I never had anything outside of that. And then in that period of time, I wasn't mentally well. And on reflection, I wasn't mentally well because I wasn't looking after myself. And it's that kind of understanding for me, and this is my personal opinion, because there's lots of opinions out there in the world regarding it. For me, it was I wasn't mentally fit.
Okay.
Because I wasn't mentally fit, I couldn't deal with the challenges that eventually ended up coming into my life.
How do you define mental fitness? Like, for example, I'll give an example. With physical fitness, you can measure it in quite a few ways, but there's ones that we genuinely agree upon. Like people who are not overweight, people who can lift heavy things, or people who can run marathons, we'd all agree to some extent have a high level of fitness, or some kind of sport. So how do you measure that, or how do you observe it with mental health?
Mental health, I mean, fitness comes into it, because obviously the body and the mind are connected. So there was the fact that I wasn't looking after my body, so I was eating bad because I was rushing around with work. I wasn't exercising, wasn't drinking water, all of those kind of things. But I also wasn't taking in an example might be your social group, so your peers who you're aligning with. That to me is a part of mental fitness. So if you're hanging around with a lot of people that are always talking negatively, moaning, doom and gloom, that affects your mental mood. I didn't have a very good, my purpose, for example, wasn't sufficient, wasn't well aligned with me. So that's another aspect that we'll look at. I wasn't looking after my inputs. And what I mean by inputs is what kind of information was I digesting on a daily basis. Again, it was kind of like the radio at work, doom and gloom. I would be binge watching TV series, things like that. I wasn't doing anything to mentally stimulate myself. So for me, it's it's mental resilience and mental fitness is kind of just starting to look at how you see your mind like you would if you were a physically fit person, how you look at your body. And are you making sure that you're putting the right things in there and doing the right things to look after it?
Okay. Two follow-up questions.
Yeah.
How would I know if I need your help? And what kind of personal individual do you like to help? Do they need to be at a certain stage? Do they need to be working in a certain industry? So I know that's two questions, two quite big questions, but can you elaborate on those?
Yeah. I would say for me, it's kind of if you're finding yourself burnt out, run down, as a man, I can talk from experience, and I do a lot of work with men. But it's not just exclusively men that I work with, but I do a lot of work with men. And one of the biggest problems for men is emotions. We don't deal with them well. We don't understand them well. So when we're getting run down, we're getting overwhelmed, we're burning out, we tend to respond with negative things like anger, etc.
Mm-hmm.
When you're starting to notice yourself being a bit more shorter with people, you're not able to get up out of bed in the same way that you used to be able to get out of bed on. That for me tends to suggest that you might be struggling a bit with your mental fitness, your resilience.
Okay.
And it's kind of that would be somebody that I would tend to work with. So I mean, I personally have experience of I was in depression, and I was experiencing anxiety, both obviously who the doctor signed off on.
Yep.
So I deal with a lot of people that might be experiencing them aspects in their life, and that's kind of where that's one aspect of my coaching, is that on a personal level.
Yeah.
The other aspect is, because I've been in the industry for so long, it's kind of obviously working with people for how you start having it. If you want to improve the way you manage, for example, or lead. So, do you not have enough empathy? I can help
I
you
have no
work with
empathy
them.
whatsoever. I'm very selfish. It's all
Well,
about
then,
me and my ego. Yeah.
but it's that kind of thing of helping people become more emotionally aware as well, and how you better. I mean, before I had the trauma in my life, and I went on the kind of this journey, if you want to put it that way. I had some very ignorant opinions on things,
Okay.
especially mental health, if I'm going to be honest. And I try to be honest all the time. That's why I have the tag of the frank coach, because I think
Okay.
honesty is a massive and an important part of it. Um, and I had to do a lot of soul searching, and I had to start changing beliefs and behaviors that were holding me back. So I
Okay.
would say that's another big aspect of what I do as a coach. So if you've got a goal to get somewhere, and there's certain things that are maybe stopping you by your beliefs, behaviors, etc., that's something I would help somebody work towards, obviously improving them.
Okay. Follow-up question. How do you measure success in your coaching sessions?
Um, well, the easiest one is for coaching. The biggest part of coaching for me to start with is we set goals.
Yep.
So whether that's somebody who's coming to work with me on a short base period, so let's say they've got like 3 months and 3 months they want to achieve this, or it's
Yep.
somebody that's going to be working with me on a longer period. We always look at the goals they want in life. So we'll do an audit on their life, have a look at their life, and see what areas where they want to improve. And then it's kind of like, well, how I work is we look for what's the big goal in 10 years, and then we come down. What does that look like at the 5 year point? What does that look like at the 3 year point? What does that look like in a year? Then what does it look like in 3 month breakdowns of that? And then we obviously then work towards those 3 month breakdowns throughout the sessions within that 3 month period of what steps do we take to get to here.
Okay.
Whether that be introducing new habits into their life,
Yep.
whether that be trying to change thought patterns that are maybe holding them back. And that's kind of how I would measure that, by that. And
Okay.
and personally, it doesn't work for everybody. So I would say maybe it's 20% of the time I end up stepping away from a coaching client, because I don't really see the point in you having a coach if you're not going to work towards those goals. If you
That
know,
makes sense.
and I
No, no,
think
yeah, yeah. It's
think a
like
part
hiring a PT to get in shape and then not doing the workout the PT gives you, right? It's just
yeah,
superfluous.
100%.
Okay, okay. Do you mind if we change gears? No pun intended. You mentioned that your background is in the automotive industry.
Yes.
Uh, What's the most surprising thing for people to know about the automotive industry if they didn't work in that industry? Like, are there any kind of things that happen commonly all the time that you've seen that the regular layman wouldn't know about?
Well, that's a question and a half, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose it's a hard one to know because I've been in it for so long. It's like, are their behaviours acceptable elsewhere?
Let me break it down. Actually, let's go to the roots first. So, what specifically do you do, like in the automotive industry? Like, how did you start out, and then how has your career progressed within that industry? Because you said you've done it for like 10, 15 years, right? So that's a long time.
Yeah. I work in the tyre industry specifically. So I started in the tyre. I worked at Enterprise Rent a Car.
Yep.
When I came out of university, and did that for about 6 years in their management trainee scheme, and worked my way up, and then was managing depots for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made the sidestep into the tyre industry, into Goodyear.
Okay. Well-known brand.
Sorry?
They're a well-known brand.
Yeah, 100%. And then I stepped into working for a company called Devanti, which at the time was a brand new brand, unheard of, and that was kind of to build that brand up within the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a step out and started my own garage.
Okay. Like full-on automotive repairs, MOTs, that kind of stuff? Or?
Fast fit, so not the repair side, but tyres, alignment, brakes, servicing, that kind of thing.
A quick fit type of garage?
Yes, yeah, very much so, like
fit.
that.
Yep.
And I did that for a couple of years, and then I came back into the tyre industry working for some other brands. So I work for a brand called Kumo, which is like a large international brand, more of the mid-range area compared to the Goodyear, which is a premium.
So, sorry to interrupt. I need to ask this question because it's in my head. So presumably you worked in the automotive industry, you had your own garage. Does that mean you're a bit of a car guy? Like, do you know about cars, or do you like cars, or occasionally do the mods or anything like that? No, not a car guy at all.
Which is it's a strange one, isn't it? Because I'm surrounded by people that have an interest in cars. I don't.
Yeah, not at all. Like,
No.
not even like a dream car, like some luxury brand, or.
You want to know what my dream car is? And it blows everybody's mind. If I had all the money in the world, I'd just have a Volvo XC90. That's how boring I am on the car.
What year?
What year?
Yeah.
Anything before the new shape that came out, really. So I'd probably take one about 5 years old.
Let me process what you just said, because that sounds absurd to me. I don't mean to be rude or offend you. So you win, let's say, so I'm talking ridiculous money. You win 129 million Euro Millions jackpot, right? You're going to buy more than an XC90, aren't you? Come on.
No, I've got no interest in it.
Not at all. You wouldn't just get like a sports car just for like 6 months to see what it would be like.
No interest.
Not at all. What about motorbikes, anything like
that? I've toyed with the idea. I watched Sons of Anarchy a long time ago, and I really wanted a Harley. So.
Okay, so you might splash out on a Harley if you had.
So I'd probably get a horse.
A horse? Oh, do you ride? Did you say?
What was that, Darren?
Sorry, I was talking over you. So you said a horse. Does that mean you ride?
Well, no, I'm just saying I wanted a motorbike because I watched a lot of Sons of Anarchy at the time, but now I watch a lot of Yellowstone, so I'd probably want a horse.
Okay. I've never watched Yellowstone. What's it about?
Brilliant.
Everyone keeps telling me it's good and I should watch it, but I don't know what it's about.
It's just like a Western kind of drama series, which is it's not even a Western, is it? Because it's like modern time ranch owning.
Okay.
It's just I've just got really into it.
Who's your favourite character in the show and why?
Beth, who was John Dunnan's daughter, who John Dunnan's the main character, which is Kevin Costner, but who's no longer in it. Beth, and it's, if anybody watches it, they'll be thinking, I just think she's a fantastic actress, and the character's just great because it's just so extreme.
Okay. I'm gonna have to ask you a silly question. Just to flip it all upside down in your head. If you could eat one meat for the rest of your life, forsaking all others, what meat would you choose?
Lamb.
Lamb.
Yeah.
Okay. You love the lamb.
I do love a lamb Sunday roast.
And by choosing lamb, you're aware that means you can never have a hamburger / beef burger. You can never have spaghetti bolognese with mince. You can never have chicken soup. You can never have KFC because you've got to forsake all. the other
Ooh.
meats? No McDonald's, because again, that's beef.
Yeah, I rushed into that, really, didn't I?
That's why I thought I'd challenge you on that one, just to make sure you thought it through.
Yeah, and I don't think I did think that through very well. I think it would have to be, well, it would have to be beef then, wouldn't it? So at least I could still have burgers, still have steak, still have beef on a Sunday roast. Yeah, I think I could live without chicken, so I'd go with beef.
All right, fair enough. Another silly question, and this is a very annoying icebreaker-esque question, so bear with me. If you were a biscuit, what kind of biscuit would you be that accurately portrays your personality, and why? But don't just pick your favourite biscuit.
Oh. I think that's the hardest question I've ever been asked.
You're welcome.
I'm really into Oreos at the minute. I mean, I know I'm well behind the old the curve with that, but I just discovered them the other day. I suppose I could be kind of like an Oreo because my coaching style can be that. I mean, I sometimes can be perceived as quite full on, but that comes from a place of great empathy and compassion, because I know that the best of it is when we stop taking our own excuses and we start pushing on. So that could be the soft creamy bit of the Oreo, and then there's this tough exterior of the I'm going with that. That's the best I can come up with.
Thank you for humouring me. I realise it's a ridiculous question. Okay, I need to ask you my other questions. All right. So you said you're based in the northeast. That means you're northeast born and bred. Like you've never lived anywhere else apart from for uni, maybe, or?
No, I went to uni up here. I'm really, really, really like it. Yeah, I don't really want to go anywhere else.
So I have offended a few people from the northeast before by saying, "Hey, man, are you from Newcastle?" And they'll go, "No, I'm not from Newcastle. I'm from blah 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 blah. It's 20 minutes outside Newcastle." Maybe you know what I'm talking about. I can't name the places. Do you know why some people get offended by this? Like, is there such a big divide between Newcastle and then other areas around Newcastle in the northeast? Like,
yeah, well, there's a big one between Newcastle and Sunderland, and that's obviously that's more football related than anything else, I would say. I mean, I grew up in the middle of them, so I grew up in Gateshead, which is, depending on what side of Gateshead you live in, you're either really, really close to Newcastle or you're really, really close to Sunderland. I mean, I was always a Newcastle fan when I was younger, but I don't get offended by it. I'm not that.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's a lot of So Sunderland comes under a lot of stick in the northeast.
Why?
Well, they get kind of titles like the Unwashed and things like that.
Oh, that's cold.
When it comes to the cities, when you go around Newcastle compared to Sunderland, it's like Newcastle is up here.
Yeah.
Sunderland here and getting better. There's a lot of investment going into Sunderland, but it's always been like, when the footballers come, and they come to Sunderland to play, they tend to live in Newcastle. Right.
Got you. I mean, I've been out in Newcastle. I had a very good time. Been there like a couple of times for work and for social stuff. It's a fun city. Like, I had a great time. In fact, I remember like it's the first time I went to a Brewdog pub. Before Brewdog was like super famous, like before they were in Sainsbury's. Like they started off in that area, right? Like the northeast. Is that right?
But they were Scottish based, aren't they? So they probably trickled down. So we would be the next place after like Edinburgh and stuff, I would imagine.
Because I remember like they used to have this amazing like 16% beer. No, it was like 21% beer, which sounds ridiculous, but they'd serve it in a martini glass, and you had to get the charcuterie board with it as well. And it was delicious. Like if you actually like the flavour of beer and hoppy goodness, it was on point. Next question for you, my northeast friend.
Go on.
Peas pudding. Have a word. What's that about?
I'm not a fan of it, to be fair.
I don't mean to insult a whole region, but I tried some last time I was there, and everyone's like, "Oh, I might have some peas pudding. It's amazing. You know, you only get it up here." And I was like, "I think there's a reason why you only get it up there." I had it. I was like, "It's not terrible." But I was like, I wouldn't, because I'm based in the southeast, right? It's literally like a 6-hour, 8-hour drive. I wouldn't, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't go that far for it.
No, I mean, I'm not a fan of it. When I was Enterprise, when I was younger, I used to run a depot in Middlesbrough. And Middlesbrough have a thing called a Parmo, which I was like completely oblivious to until I started working there. And everybody's like,
that?
"Have you had a Parmo?" And I was like,
What is
"No."
it?
And then eventually the lads were like, "Oh, we'll get you a Parmo for dinner." So then they brought the Parmo is just like, from my understanding, is like a chicken fillet battered, then with cheese on it and balsamic sauce or whatever it is, and covered in
Yeah.
it. It's like, yeah. So that's another northeast delicacy, because if you want to put Middlesbrough, Stockton into the northeast.
Okay, as long as they don't get offended, because again, I know if you call certain places the wrong side of the north, they get very upset as well. So, I'm going to ask you as well. I know most people can Google these things, but it's always good to get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. What is peas pudding? Like, what is it?
I'm going to be honest with you, Dale. I don't really know, because I don't really
Oh,
like it.
okay, fair enough. So you don't like peas pudding. You mentioned the Parmo. Are there any other kind of
Dale,
northeastern
I'm very ignorant
delicacies?
when it comes to food. Right, I had my first pizza when I was 25.
Don't brag about that.
I didn't have a Chinese until I was in my 30s, same as an Indian's, because I just refused to eat that kind of
What?
food.
You refuse to eat that food? Why is this?
But I used to be very, very picky. I used to only literally eat like chips and ham sandwiches or a Sunday dinner.
The epitome of like British cuisine.
Yeah, I once walked into a pizza shop on a night out with my mates when I was at uni, and they're all ordering pizzas. And I was like, "Well, I don't like pizza. What can I have?" And I just said to the guy, I'll have a pizza, but without any tomato on it, without any cheese on it." So he went, "Do you just want a biscuit?" And I was like, "I'll have one of them." So I basically just got a pizza box with the base in.
Now that you've had pizza, Chinese, and other foods, have you learned the error of your ways? You've been like, I've been missing out on this the
Oh,
whole time. Also,
taste
is that
sensation, like an
was
egg on a
that?
bacon sandwich. I wouldn't have that. And then I had an egg on a bacon sandwich. I was like, what have I been doing for 25 years?
Oh, Andy. I'm not angry, just disappointed.
And now you can understand why I don't really know much about peas pudding, because I probably used to look at that when I was little and was like, I'm not touching that.
Did your parents eat different cuisine, and then you were the stubborn one, or did they also not eat different cuisine?
Oh no, it was me, the stubborn one. I
Was
remember
you?
times where my dad wouldn't let me leave the like dining room table, and I would just purposely sit there until 10 o'clock at night and not touch what was in front of us.
Wow. I'm not gonna lie, I have come across that with my small human. And it's sometimes it's a case of you may not want to eat this now, but you're still gonna go to bed, and if you wake up hungry later, you're just gonna have to eat it cold. It's only happened once, and I think she's learned that like I'm not gonna prepare her another meal because food is food.
Yeah, well, I'm a lot like I say now. Now I'll venture into almost most stuff. But I'm not a one for like seafood or anything. I don't do seafood unless
No,
it's
no.
cod and it's battered. That's as far as I go.
So fish and chips is your seafood of choice, as it were.
Yes.
Okay, I can relate to that. I mean, I never used to like seafood. I do like it now, and I think there's a lot of people in the UK who don't really like fish. Like, despite
It's
the
the
size of
smell
the
that gets me.
country. Sorry.
It's the smell that gets me.
Yeah. Maybe we just had bad fish. Like, because there's some fish that like doesn't smell that fishy smell, that CEE smell.
How about this though? I love to go fishing.
You love to go fishing, but I assume you throw them back because you don't eat fish.
Yeah.
So, what kind of fish do you fish for?
I do it I don't do it very often. I used to do it a lot when I was a kid, but now if I get the opportunity, I'll do any kind. Really, I'll go on the river or I'll go out in the sea on a boat. I like the fish. It's nice, relaxing. Really, it's good for your mental health.
Okay, fair enough. Um, I had a question I was going to ask you, but because I was listening to what you were saying, I've now forgotten what I was going to ask you. Very frustrating. Bear with me. Sorry, okay, yeah, going back a step. So, back to your career in the automotive industry. You mentioned you moved into tyres, Goodyear, and then another company. And then where did your career go from that?
Obviously Goodyear, then it was Devanti, then it was open my own garage, and then I went to a company called Zafco, which look after some budget brands in the UK. Then I went to Kumo, and now I do a bit of part-time work for a local retailer called Tire Spot.
Okay.
Nice to be able to to work with a northeast-based company after working for all of the kind of bigger internationals.
Yeah. Cool. What's the thing you enjoy most about working for TireSpot?
Just the people, really. It's like it's a big thing for me is people. And obviously they're all nice, canny Northeast people, so it's a nice environment to work in.
Okay. What's your least favorite thing about the automotive industry? I know, very negative question, I know.
I would say the fact that it's still a bit backwards. It's a bit old school in its way that it goes about certain things.
How so?
But it's moving slowly towards getting better, I would say.
What's backwards about it? What's old school?
Well, I would say in a like kind of company culture wise, probably towards like mental health. Maybe it's the like development of staff, looking after staff, that kind of culture. When you look at I always kind of look at the tech world and you see everything that gets done in the tech world for employees to attract them and look after them. And then you look at what happens in the tire industry and the automotive industry. It's not quite there yet. It's also a very much male dominated industry, but that is improving. And that would be the only downside I would say of it. But like I say, I've noticed it improving over the last few years and it's getting better. But I do think it needs to do a lot more on the kind of mental health side of it, really, for the amount of men that it employs, and the kind of jobs that they're doing. So it can yeah. Oh, looks like it's just me.
Sorry.
You back?
Can you hear? I'm back. I'm not sure what happened there. My camera decided to stop working and everything just went a bit funny. Sorry about that.
No problem at all.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, that was a bit weird. All right, I realised we've been chatting for about half an hour now, and for me, time flies. I only noticed because I saw the timestamp. I've asked you lots and lots of questions. Is there anything in particular that you would like to ask me?
I suppose. How long have you been doing this for? Did you say 2 years?
The podcasts, yeah. Well, I should say about 2 years almost, yeah.
And what do you get out of them the most?
Genuinely speaking, mostly my own amusement. Occasionally, I learn things from other people. So things about industries I wouldn't know about. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And there are a few people. I've gained a bit of a following. They also enjoy them. So yeah, some entertainment for myself, entertainment for others, and knowledge. That's what I get out of it.
I suppose you'll gain some bot followers from me as well for this one.
Yeah, let's tell the audience all about that. So when I invited you to this, for the audience who don't know, for some reason, when I did the post, it's the first time the post got bots on it, appeared to be bots. There were new connections on. They weren't connected to either of us on LinkedIn. They had 0 connections, 0 followers, and their profiles were just incomplete. And they'd say stuff like, "Can we have a chat? Can we connect?" And that's the first time that's happened. And I blame Andy for this.
Well, I think it obviously looks like it's me, isn't it? If you had been doing it for 2 years, it's never happened before.
Well, or the show's got to the peak of notoriety, and now it's attracting bots. And it just so happened that you were episode number 102, and that's when the threshold went, oh, he's getting enough traction, so now bots are attracted to me in general. But it does look like it was you. I'm not gonna lie. Literally, I did one last week, and no bots. You this week, bots for days.
I think I like your other perception that it's because of you've hit that level now, and that's what you're
threshold of notoriety.
Yeah, it's all on you, Dale. This is because of your achievements that you're getting these bots following you.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that. So before, oh, okay, this is another random question. Just popped into my head. What kind of music do you like?
At the minute, I'm very much for the last few years, I've been in country's become a bit of a new one for me. But like my biggest, the thing I like the most is probably a bit of metal, a bit of rock. That's what I was into when I was younger, like a bit of like hip hop from the kind of 90s and early 2000s. Bit of reggae, ska. That tends to be what I've always listened to. But like I say, country music has kind of slipped in there a little bit over the last 3 years.
How did you get into country?
It was one of my friends. She's like mad for it and goes all over the place for it. And she sent like, we have a WhatsApp group. Because they're based down in Shipley, Bradford, so they're a couple hours drive away from me. She put in like a WhatsApp group of this Spotify playlist. They've always had this kind of opinion of country, which was obviously quite a negative one. And then I started to listen to this music. It was like, it's all right. And then I started to put it on when I was doing long drives, and all of a sudden got into it quite a bit.
Fair play.
But
Have you ever heard of... Sorry, go on.
My go-to is always things like, which surprised a lot of people, is like Rage Against the Machine, Disturbed, that kind of stuff.
I'm with you on that one. Disturbed are amazing. Get Down with the Sickness is an all-time metal classic, and Stricken, that whole album. I can't remember what the album's called, but that song is amazing. Like, it's just for metal, his vocals are so unique. That kind of staccato gruffness, like that's, you know, his voice straight away. Also, don't forget the hooks in his face. That's a giveaway. What was I going to say? People say the same thing about me, by the way, because I'm quite a metal fan as well. And they're like, "Really, you?" I'm like, "Yeah, love me some metal." Speaking of country, I'm not a huge fan, but I'm also slightly getting to it. I heard a track by Josh Turner called "Your Man." The first time I heard it, I thought, "Man, this guy's voice is amazing." And even better, if you listen to it, his voice does not match his face. Like, listen to the song and then go look at a picture of him. You'll be like, "How on earth is he doing that?" Like, it's quite funny.
Oh, well, I'll look that up. I've probably heard it, to be fair. I mean, I don't really know that many, as much as I listened to it over the last 3 years. I don't really know many artist names, because it's always just on like I use YouTube Music, so it's just on a playlist as I drive. So I'm not looking at who they are. But
I'm the same, by the way. I use YouTube Music, and I think, first of all, I think that's the thing. We're a similar age, you and I. You get to an age where actually, like, the knowledge of the music doesn't matter as much anymore. Like, when you're a teenager, like, you're proper into it. Also, I would argue that with the pace of music and technology, like, back when we were younger, a song would come out, the only place you could hear it was on the radio, and you'd hear it a million times on the radio, and you hear the presenter talk about it on the radio, so you know the song. Now, like you say, you can stick on YouTube Premium, you can stick on Spotify, and it will, like you say, it will be on we think you might like this, and it'll start a playlist. You won't know who it is because you're not looking at your phone; you're just hearing the music. So,
and you had to buy the CD, didn't you? So you had the CD, you had the album, you used to look through it all, and then you would learn the names of stuff. And definitely not the same anymore.
Yeah, back in the day.
Napster,
LimeWire. I never used those.
Oh, did he used to do the thing where he used to record like the top 10 and stuff like that?
Yeah. So physically, yeah. So it used to be for me, it was the Trevor Nelson show. I think it used to come on like when I liked R&B and hip hop and stuff like that. It'd come on like 10 at night on a Friday, and you put your cassette in, and you'd hit the record button, and you have to listen intently, because what you were trying to do is you were trying to make a mixtape of the songs, and you didn't want Trevor Nelson talking, so you'd hit pause when he was about to talk and the track was ending, and then you unpause, and then you then have a mix of your favorite artists. Because again, those albums didn't get sold in the UK, so if you wanted to listen to like Drew Hill, like, you know, R&B boy band, you'd have to listen to Trevor Nelson at Friday night and listen to the R&B charts from the US. So, or back when Destiny's Child weren't even famous, like they were new. Yeah, I remember those are days.
And you had to be ready as well to flip the tape to get the next.
Yeah. Occasionally, I do get younger people watching this, people who are like going into university or finishing secondary school. We might have to explain we're talking about tapes, because they have no idea. But yeah.
There was a lot of effort had to be put in to listen to your favorite music, really, didn't it? As if it wasn't mainstream stuff that was getting played on the radio.
Did you ever make a mixtape for someone you wanted to woo/date?
No, I don't think I have, Dale. No, I mean, you can speak to my other half. She'll say I'm not the most romantic of people. I try, and I do it in different ways.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. I think we're going to have to wrap this up. But before we do that,
spot on.
Is there any nugget of wisdom you want to my goodness, nugget of wisdom you want to leave the audience with before we drop off? That can be business-wise, personal life, spiritual, emotional. Just a quick, pithy statement, or
for me at this time of year, I think, in the way the world's going at the moment, I think just for people just to be a bit more compassionate and have a bit more empathy, and just under like when you're experiencing somebody who might not be treating you in the best possible way at the moment, there's a good chance of something not very well going on in their life. So just try and be as hard as it can be. Just try and respond to that with a bit of kindness, because there's a lot of people hurting, and hurt people hurt people.